Welcome back to Transcriber from Reddit. Today's topic comes from the subreddit exLutheran, posted by user OK-firefighter-765. The post is a link post with a title and some base text. The title reads, Thiensville WELS elementary teacher arrested for, quote, inappropriate contact, end quote, with male students. The body of the post reads as follows. Of course, it's a WELS elementary male teacher. Linked here is an article to TMJ4 local news article. Below the link reads, we had 3 teachers, quote, asked to leave, end quote, my elementary school while I was there. Some pretty scary stuff in retrospect. As of recording, this has 34 upvotes and 26 comments. Reason I'm covering this is because if you were to go to any of the base WELS pages, you're not going to find this information. They don't publish this. They don't encourage people to come forward. They don't agree with victims or parents of the victims that this is horrible and that people need to come forward and report this sort of stuff. And they don't encourage reporting to authorities. And it needs to be called out. First, I'm going to transcribe the article that's linked in the post. Then I'll go back, review some of the comments, and then review some of the links that the comments also link to. Because there's more to the story than just the initial article. Here, in the initial article linked, we read, former teacher at Thiensville Lutheran School charged with child enticement, accused of inappropriate contact. Here we see a video that shows the headshot photo of the teacher. The teacher's name, or former teacher's name, is Daniel Rick. Here in the photo, we see him with his blonde jail jumpsuit on. Here in the photo, we see him with his blonde hair, orange jail jumpsuit on, and very solemn, not quite glaring, but very judgmental face staring at the camera. This was posted 10:13 a.m. on January 22nd, 2025. A former 3rd and 4th grade teacher and athletic director at a Thiensville Lutheran school has been charged after being accused of inappropriate contact with male students. Daniel Rick, 36, resigned from Christ Alone Lutheran School on November 17, 2024, according to a criminal complaint, just 2 days after the Thiensville Police Department received a tip that he may have been involved in inappropriate behavior with a student. Following an investigation with the Ozaukee County Sheriff's Office, Rick was arrested on January 17, 2025, and charged with both child enticement and exposing a child's pubic area. According to a criminal complaint, multiple students reported that Rick acted inappropriately with them. This included having the students sit on his lap, rubbing their stomachs, kissing them, and patting their bottoms. One victim told investigators that Rick pulled down his pants to examine his pubic hair. In the complaint, Rick says he justified his actions by saying, quote, because I don't have kids of my own. There's part of me that wants that, end quote. And, quote, I compare it to the story in the Bible and Jesus saying, quote, let the little children come to me, end quote, end overall quote. If convicted, Rick faces up to 28.5 years in prison. The Thiensville Police Department says anyone who has information regarding this case is asked to contact the Ozaukee County Sheriff's Office. TMJ4 does not normally use mugshots in our news coverage, but we are in this case due to the potential for more victims to come forward. You can see our full mugshot policy here, linked here. Here ends the article. If you know of anyone, whether related to you or not, that has their kids attending Thiensville WELS school, please talk to them. Please encourage them, if they had contact with a teacher, to come forward with their stories. Also, note something suspicious here, where he resigned 2 days after the police department received a tip that he may have been involved in inappropriate behavior. Also note that this article doesn't have any statement from the church/school involved. I definitely concur with OP here. It's very scary stuff, especially when it happens to children. Children who should be protected, who should be actually viewed as the blessings that they are. And despite WELS preaching that children are blessings, they do not treat children as blessings, merely things to keep their schools open and to justify getting aid for, until they can squeeze every last bit of money from parents and people who are sympathetic to funding their institutions. Back here in the subreddit, let's cover some of the comments. Top one for me is "Not a Drag Queen," commented by user Remarker85. User Inamed Jared commented in response saying, "Or a trans person." User Old Nana Karen 84 commented saying, "I feel so sorry for those kids and parents. Knowing that those parents in the cult truly believe that they are putting their kids in a safe space and then have them violated is the ultimate betrayal. It doesn't surprise me, though. I hope he gets the book thrown at him." I concur. Religious institutions and their schools market their areas as safe spaces. But then incidents like this happens. Is there any sort of increased protection? Is there any sort of apology? Is there any sort of vow of increased vigilance and training regarding situations like this? Or do they just brush it under the rug and blame victims? User _ Henry Abbott _ commented, "A little more info," with a link that leads to a JS Online article, which I will cover shortly. "I wonder if the WELS will make his $100,000 bail." User Leggy Beans 1990 commented in response saying, "God, this is so gross. He told the student not to say anything to his parents. How far would he have gone? It's so weird because I knew him and went to MLC the same time he did. He hung with the Luther prep crowd, parentheses, I believe he was from prep 2, in parentheses, and was always the goofy, quirky guy." I can't fathom what it must be like to have someone that you know and you thought was a relatively cool guy and chill guy, only to find their name and picture plastered because of them violating children like this. My sympathies go out to those people. Of course, that doesn't mean that you hide victims or you tell victims to not come forward or you discourage people from sharing their stories. But to have that personal connection to someone who you knew, who you thought was safe, only for that to be exposed as untrue and a lie, that is very cognitively disconcerting, at the very least. Like I said, there was a JS Online article linked. This is it, titled, Former Teacher at Thiensville Private School Charged with Child Sex Crimes. Written by Claudia Levins, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Published 2:41 p.m. Central Time, January 22nd, 2025. A former teacher at a private school in Thiensville has been charged with child sex crimes related to reports of alleged inappropriate behavior with students. Daniel Rick, 36, of Jackson, was charged January 21st in Ozaukee County Circuit Court with 1 count of child enticement and 1 count of exposing a child's pubic area, both felonies. Side note, thank God they're both felonies, and I hope that they never get changed to anything less than a felony. Continuing reading. Collectively, the charges carry a maximum penalty of 28.5 years in prison and fines up to $110,000. Rick was arrested and taken into custody on January 17, 2025, according to a news release from the Thiensville Police Department. According to the news release and criminal complaint, on November 15, 2024, the Thiensville Police Department received a report from Milwaukee County Child Protective Services that Rick, a teacher employed at Christ Alone Lutheran School in the village, may have had inappropriate contact with a male student that included having the boy sit on his lap, touching the student's stomach, and kissing him on the top of his head. The department immediately opened an investigation assisted by the Ozaukee County Sheriff's Office and with cooperation from school officials. Thiensville police learned that Rick, a 3rd and 4th grade teacher and the school's athletic director, had resigned from his position at the school on November 17, 2024, after parents had reported concerns to the school. Side note, interesting that the investigation opened on November 15th. And then 2 days later, because parents reported to the school, then he resigns on the 17th. I know that it says in their release that the department immediately opened an investigation. When did they reach out to school? When did they reach out to school officials? When did they reach out to Rick? When did they reach out to parents? Continuing reading. Investigators interviewed multiple students at the school who reported similar inappropriate behavior to investigators, and other parents had raised flags with administrators, they learned. In January 2024, those parents had met with Rick to raise concerns about appropriate boundaries and physical contact after they learned their 9-year-old son was frequently sitting on Rick's lap. Side note, what the... This is just January 2024, by the way. We don't know what was raised earlier. Continuing on, the parents learned from other 3rd and 4th grade students that Rick's behavior did not stop after that meeting. Rick also reportedly told the 9-year-old not to share anything with his parents. Side note, classic grooming behavior. Continuing on, one of the investigators' interviews with a student revealed an incident in January 2024 where Rick pulled down the pants of a 10-year-old boy. After Rick was arrested and taken into custody on January 17, 2025, he told investigators he did not initiate physical contact, but admitted to having students he had a closer bond with because of their involvement in athletics sit on his lap and admitted to giving them hugs. A cash bond of $100,000 for Rick was set on January 21st, according to online court records. A status hearing is scheduled for February 17th. The investigation remains active and ongoing. Law enforcement officials are encouraging anyone who may have additional information or concerns pertinent to the case to contact the Ozaukee County Sheriff's Office. Contact Claudia Levins at clevins@gannett.com. Follow her on X at levinsc13. This ends the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel article. So, this is the same behavior that we've seen in cases like Andrew Schmiege, the professor that preyed on a college student and later moved her in with him and then married her. It's similar to stories of Martin Luther College, where students that undergo abuse and they report them, have their reports either covered up or delayed in being addressed because they don't see the urgency in actually addressing systems of abuse. Also, the Katrina Braun situation, not necessarily involving sexual misconduct, but involving the abuse of children. Also, the Plymouth School scandal, which involved that then principal Aaron Wickman before he got transferred mysteriously over to Arizona. Or Andrew Zerbe, the pastor who was the vicar at the time of him sexually molesting a 16-year-old and then found guilty and then tried to appeal it in Michigan and got his wrist slapped, thank goodness. None of this is unfortunately surprising to those of us who know and report or comment or share these stories of abuse that happens at the Wells. Moving back over to the comment section on the subreddit. User Pretentious Witch commented, "This is the article I found when I first learned of it yesterday. Notice how the article mentions he resigned after parents made complaints to the school. School made no effort to involve the legal system. Someone had to make a CPS report for something to happen." Side note, yeah, unless more details get released, especially with how far back they're saying the allegations have been reported since at least January of 2024, if not earlier, it must have been either he knew something was up or something, or maybe the school pressured him then to resign because maybe they were contacted by police. But yeah, outside authorities had to be commented. The school did not involve the outside authorities, not willingly. User Lupita ___ commented, "The worst part in this is the school knew there was a problem in January 2024. Note that the words January 2024 are in caps, and covered it up. Then has the audacity to say this to people. Quote, student safety is a top priority for us at Christ Alone Lutheran School, end quote. You knew last January and didn't do anything until a family went to the cops. Again, the words last January are in all caps. For good reason. The leadership at Christ Alone Lutheran School should very much be in doubt here. They did not file a report. They did not make a report to the cops. And then same user, Lupita __ commented to themselves saying, another article that has the church response. And that links to a fox6now.com article. Here at Fox 6 Milwaukee, article titled Child Sex Crimes, Thiensville Teacher Athletic Director Charged. Written by Sam Kramer and Fox 6 News Digital Team. Published January 21st, 2025, 8:57 p.m. Central Time. Here we get another image of the teacher, Daniel Rick, in his prison orange. Again, if you suspect or that you or someone else has been a victim, please come forward to the Thiensville Police Department. The brief. Point 1. 36-year-old Daniel Rick of Jackson has been charged with child sex crimes. Point 2. He is a former teacher and athletic director at Christ Alone Lutheran School. Point 3. He has been ordered to have no contact with Christ Alone Lutheran School or Christ Alone Lutheran Church, or anyone under 18 years old. Thiensville, Wisconsin. A now former teacher at a Thiensville private school has been charged with child sex crimes. What we know. The accused is 36-year-old Daniel Rick of Jackson. He is a former teacher and athletic director at Christ Alone Lutheran School. He faces the following charges. 1. Child enticement, exposed genitals/pubic area/intimate parts. Point 2. Exposing genitals/pubic area/intimate parts to a child. Case details. A criminal complaint accuses Rick of picking, quote, favorite, unquote, boy students each year and having some of them sit on his lap where he would touch their stomachs or rub their backs and kiss them. One student told Thiensville police he later told the student he had to stop because he, quote, could lose his job or go to jail, unquote. Yeah. And thankfully, you are in jail. Continuing on, the complaint adds that when parents met with Rick to discuss his behavior in January 2024, Rick, quote, quickly broke into tears, unquote, then tried justifying his actions with a comparison to Jesus, saying, quote, let the little children come to me, unquote. Here we have a screenshot where it says in quotes, quote, parentheses, Rick, end parentheses, also said, quote, I compare it to the story in the Bible and Jesus saying, quote, let the little children come to me, end quote, and overall quote. Last month, detectives learned of even worse accusations, dating back to January 2024. A student told the police Rick asked him to come to his classroom after school. According to prosecutors, Rick compared the boy's athletic abilities to older students, then pulled the boy's pants down to, quote, see his pubic hair, end quote. Rick's accused of later kissing the boy on the cheek and instructing him not to tell anyone because he, quote, didn't want to get in trouble, end quote. Here we have another screenshot with a quote saying, quote, the defendant would have him sit on his lap, quote, touch his ... tummy, end quote, and kiss the child's head, and overall quote. The complaint states Rick admitted, quote, what he did was wrong, end quote, in an interview last Friday with investigators. Section. In court. What's next? Rick made his initial court appearance on Tuesday, January 21st. His bond has been set at $100,000. Rick has also been ordered to have no contact with Christ Alone Lutheran School or Christ Alone Lutheran Church or anyone under 18 years old, and to also not use the internet. Here we see another photo, again of Daniel Rick in jail orange. He is due back in court in February. Section. School's response. What they're saying. Christ Alone Lutheran School provided the following. Quote, Dear Christ Alone Evangelical Lutheran School families, student safety is a top priority for us at Christ Alone Lutheran School. In working with law enforcement, we have been informed and want to inform you that Mr. Rick has been charged with criminal conduct. We understand this information raises concerns. Since criminal charges are now pending, no additional information can be released at this time. If you have any information relevant to this investigation or have concerns for your child, please contact the law enforcement officer listed below. Law enforcement advises that you please do not ask your children any specific questions regarding the above information. Law enforcement can help with how to approach the topic with your child, prepare you for reacting appropriately to their responses, and explain the process if necessary. Wazaki County Sheriff's Office Investigator Carson Frame, 262-284-8462, or email at kframe@ozakicounty.gov. We ask for your prayers on behalf of everyone who is hurting because of this turn of events. We commend everything into the hands of him who assured us, quote, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid," end quote. Parentheses. John 14, verse 27, end parentheses. End overall quote. Okay, where is the quote from Jesus saying, if anyone hurts these little children, it's better for a millstone to be tied around their necks? Why don't they quote that verse? I mean, I know why, but come on, people. Anyway, here ends the article. Well, let's hop over to Christ Alone Lutheran School's Facebook page and see if maybe that letter or any announcement is up on their Facebook page. Come on, let me continue to look. I know you can't see it on the previous screen, but I didn't see anything on their Facebook page when I went in and looked at it under my own account. Nothing on or around November or anything in January regarding this investigation that was posted. So, moving on over to their website. What do they have on their website? Well, as we can see, featured front and center, or front and on the left on their website, is a blurb about Wisconsin school choice. Christ Alone Lutheran School, parentheses CALS, end parentheses, participates in the Wisconsin Parental Choice Program. Ideal for families seeking a safe, I'm pretty sure they mean safe environment, but considering that they had a predator there, is that really safe? Here we go. Here's the full sentence. Ideal for families seeking a safe, supportive, academically sound Christian education. Give your child the benefits of a Christian education filled with dedicated, caring staff. CALS proudly offers qualified families a voucher from the state of Wisconsin to pay for their children's tuition. Families must live in a Wisconsin city or town other than Milwaukee or Racine, and their income must be within the limits of this program. The WPCP application period for the 2025 to 2026 school year begins February 1st and ends April 17th, 2025. Note that when I'm dunking on Christ Alone for their inability and their unwillingness to act regarding parent complaints about a child predator, I'm not indicting the families for taking advantage of a government assistance program for the hope of better schooling for their children. I don't know how the school quality looks down there, and I can't comment to that area. But I know that people who take advantage of those programs usually are doing so because they want a better education for their child. And I don't blame them for that. No, all of the responsibility for this, and I have to say this because the investigation is ongoing, alleged sex predator, child sex predator, is up to the leadership at the school and the church. And it has to be the leadership of both, because with them being a parochial school, leadership doesn't just come from the principal. It also comes from the board of directors and the pastor. Anyway, after going through the school's website, I don't see any blog or any posting, any notices that they would have posted regarding this ongoing investigation, which honestly, despite what they had as their initial public response in the Fox 6 article, makes me very suspicious that they're just burying it and they're hoping that it'll all go away. They can't lose out on those nice tuition dollars after all. Moving back over to the reddit.com article, we have user Don't Eat the Cookies Mom, who commented, "Wells is no better than the Catholic Church. To this day, Wells still allows male teachers to court and marry their own high school students as soon as they graduate. ... Those teachers continue to get calls and are shuffled around the country. As far as Wells leaders see it, they are thankful these children are going to be with, quote, men of God, end quote, and we should all be celebrating the victimization of children." User LiggyBeans 1990 commented in response saying, "That is so gross to me. If a male teacher, parentheses, or female teacher, I guess, although I don't know if female teachers have done this to male students, end parentheses, is dating a student that has just graduated, that means that teacher had a serious interest in that student long before the student graduated. Did he flirt with the student, give clues, give special attention, give his number to her the day she graduated? I'm sorry, but even though you're a legal adult at 18, that student may still not be mature enough to understand how bad that situation is. Since the dating pool in the Wells is so small, that student may see it as her only opportunity to find someone, quote, suitable, end quote, to marry. The idea of a teacher planning out a relationship with a student before she has graduated is so wrong. I'm sure the Wells condones it, though. Gotta have as many couples, make as many babies as possible for the cult." And then user Don't Eat the Cookies Mom responded to that comment saying, "Young women at Wells schools are just potential sex partners and are not seen as young scholars." Sad emoji. User Keely Meister commented separately saying, "He has that same angry and entitled look in his eyes, like my dad, a malignant narcissist who used to be an LCMS pastor." User Relevant-Shop 8513 commented saying, "Mandatory reporting must be imposed on religious institutions. No more secrecy of the confessional. No more cover-ups. LCMS covered for the family annihilator, John List, and he was a fugitive for years before he was captured. We have given tax breaks to churches, helped fund their schools, and provided them with political support. Clergy need to report. Churches need to pay taxes like any other corporation. All citizens should obey the law." User Don't Eat the Cookies Mom responded to that comment saying, "Search for Pastor Stephen Wall of Wells and the love letter he wrote to a child. Another case where Wells didn't follow mandatory reporting rules." Sad face. The DP literally forced the congregation to rehire him and then shuffled him around. User Relevant-Shop 8513 responded back saying, "This is unbelievable. I am beginning to wonder if there are true Christians in church leadership positions, or as in the corporate world, just fixers and politicians. Do they rise to those positions by supporting the party line and not questioning bad acts and exhibiting inaction in the face of evil? In other words, is it possible to be in leadership positions in Lutheran synods and truly believe and practice Christianity?" My comment would be, just like anything else in any of the business world, anyone who's in a leadership position in the Wells is there because they're connected, because they're known, because they can raise money, because they know how to get people to give money, because they know how to make people like them, because they know how to convince other people that they're on the right side, that they know what they're doing, and to just trust them. Just trust that everything is going to be fine. It's going to be fine, guys. Don't rock the boat. Another user, LiggyBeans 1990, commented saying, "Oh my God, I know him. I went to MLC with him. He was a class above me. I even hung out with him and his friends when I dated a Luther prep guy." I'm going to use that as an opportunity to go over to this link, the official athletics website of the Martin Luther College Knights, where we see a younger version of this Daniel Rick on the 2010 men's tennis roster. It's funny because they list his height as 0-0. Here we see listed his hometown, Laval, Wisconsin, class sophomore, high school, Wanawak Center. Seems like there's a couple articles / video that might be related, and otherwise nothing else notable about him. As for the source for that link, that was provided by user Wells_abuse. Thank you for providing this link, and thank you to all the other users on this subreddit who provided all these links. Now, I know earlier I said that there wasn't anything that I found as of right now, also during this recording, where Wells posted anything regarding this. I was specifically looking for this, as well as other mentions about it on any of the Wells public-facing sites, which the fact that I didn't find it on any of Wells public-facing sites didn't really surprise me that much. However, I screenshotted this, and I'm glad I screenshotted this because back on January 22nd, this post was made. I can't find this post anymore. I assume that it was taken down by somebody. However, this post was made, and I want to read it out to you in its entirety. It was written by Brandon Steenbach, and it was a public post within this public group. Your admins are not in the habit of, quote, breaking news, end quote. But occasionally, events happen that bring shame to the name of Jesus, pain to the people of God, and serious harm to families. That's especially true when a called worker is caught abusing those in his care. In those cases, we prefer to share the news, along with some cautions, rather than wait for others in the group to raise the issue. Our goal is to protect the good names of those affected. According to reports, a teacher at one of our schools has been abusive to his students and is now facing legal consequences. Please pray, first and foremost, that his victims find help, healing, and hope. Second, that their families can move forward with the peace that surpasses understanding. Third, that the teacher comes to full repentance, throwing his lot on the mercy of Christ. Fourth, that the teacher receives justice in the courts and mercy from genuine counseling. Fifth, that God would protect his people and curb sin within our midst. Some reminders about abuse and Christian forgiveness. Abuse is painful and serious. It leaves lasting pain. It should be reported, and those who abuse others should face consequences. Second, our God and our Savior has compassion for the abused. He tells those in pain and suffering to come to him. In Jesus, God's love for the abused is made real. Parentheses, Matthew 11, verse 28. End parentheses. This world is broken, but Jesus promises he has defeated sin and death and is making all things new. This includes the abused. Your identity is not in the evil done to you, but in the love Jesus has for you. He promises renewal and freedom from pain in his death and resurrection. Forgiveness is not forgetting it happened, nor ignoring justice. It is giving God's justice the final word. We forgive because we have been forgiven through Jesus, though none deserve it. Some sermon resources you might find helpful. Here he has linked a sermon series on abuse, 3 types of forgiveness, and sermon series on forgiveness. Here's what we ask you to do. Become familiar with resources for the abused and support ministries that offer help. Here he has linked Freedom for Captives. Parentheses, Freedom for the Captive seeks to empower the Christian community to respond to the sin of child abuse. We also have resources for survivors, including recommended readings and guidance in selecting counseling or other services. In addition to the resources on our website, we also offer direct assistance to individual survivors who may have a spiritual question not addressed on our website or who need assistance in finding a counselor. End parentheses. If you have been abused or being abused, please reach out for help. Tell the authorities. Please speak to a Christian counselor and your pastor. Christian Family Solutions has both online and in-person counselors. And then here he has linked Christian Family Solutions, their appointment setter. Let this one post suffice. Please do not post more about this. Any such posts will be removed. Please be respectful and constructive in all comments. Authentic discussion, even if challenging, is permitted, but rumors, false accusations, and general rudeness are not. And then as of the screenshot, there were at least 118, including Scott Barefoot, that reacted to it. I don't know why this got removed. I'm not going to say that the post is absolutely good in its entirety. I'm not going to say that it's entirely the best. I don't think that linking only one Christian approved abuse group, abuse survival, and ministry, the Freedom for the Captives, I don't think linking just one is a good practice. I think that linking a sermon series on abuse is problematic because that's very rarely do people from the pulpit actually address that in a satisfactory way. I will say, compared to most of what the Wells has discussed about abuse in the past, this post at least seems more prepared to talk about it, more upfront in the fact that yes, abuse happened and how do you address it, and at least offer some resources. So compared to how Wells has previously acted in the past regarding abuse, this is light years ahead of normal responses. Or at least it was, until it mysteriously got removed. Also, keeping the victims first and forefront, huge. That is huge. Correction. I went back to do another search, and I found this post made on January 24th. Where same author, Brandon Steenbach, wrote, "Dear friends, in an effort to be helpful shepherds, we as an admin team decided to add our commentary to a story we understood to be public, with the intent of pointing people to the peace of Jesus and to be helpful by sharing resources for the hurting. We ended up amplifying a story in a way that was unhelpful. We usually point people back to their local congregation and their shepherd for direction when they come to this group for guidance. Unfortunately, in this case, we took things out of the hands of the local congregation and the shepherds most directly caring for the situation. In the end, our actions were not the helpful actions we intended, and for that we sincerely apologize. That post has been removed. For the sake of peace for all, comments will not be permitted on this post. Please feel free to reach out to me personally via private message or to another member of the admin team. The resources previously shared are below and will remain here for those that need them. Abuse is still a real thing. Any specific situations aside, and if you or someone you love has suffered abuse, it is important that you know where to turn. Here are some helpful options." Got some lines separating, and then they say, "We leave these resources for those who have been abused or those who care for them." And then again, they have linked sermon series on abuse, 3 types of forgiveness, sermon series on abuse, freedom for the captives. And then at the way bottom, they say, "If you have been abused or are being abused, please reach out for help. Tell the authorities. Please speak to a Christian counselor and your pastor." And again, they link the appointment Christian Family Solutions. Why they do not have that further up higher in the post, I do not know. And I will absolutely snark on this post. First off, while not perfect, your original post was a lot better and a lot more of what victims, both those of us who are on both of us who have left Wells and those who are still in Wells but have been hurt by you guys and by your inadmission to deal with things like abuse. Your original post actually was, in my less than humble opinion, it was better thought out, it made a lot more sense, and you offered a lot of victim-centered, at least initially, victim-centered information and victim-compassionate centered, and things that are centered on where we focus on the victims, and yes, we want the person who offended to be to have justice done to him. Who can disagree with that? I don't know who can disagree with that, and I don't know. Now, I don't know if maybe because of how they worded it, maybe the defense team reached out and said, well, you can't do that. And that's why they took the original post down. But this post is so much worse than that post that they took down. And I don't know how much to believe this statement of, in this case, we took things out of the hands of the local congregation and the shepherds most directly caring for this situation. The local congregation and whoever was shepherding this local situation screwed up so badly that the authorities only found out when parents made the report to the authorities. The school did not make the report. You cannot call shepherds who are supposedly shepherding the flock and shepherding the school and shepherding the church. You can't call them shepherds if they're not making the damn report to the authorities. Most of all, for someone who admits that abuse is still a real thing and links to resources for abuse, you can't be bothered to amplify and have the part about the authorities and how important it is to report to authorities at the top of your post. That is absolutely disgusting. That is not a position that you should be taking, especially not now. And all of the nice things that they said about reaching out and that they feature victims and that they want the victims to find help, healing, and hope. That the centering of victims, the goal of helping the victims first and keeping the victims first in our mindset, that's been completely erased in his new post. This was the old post, and this is the new post. Completely opposite messages here. And the fact that they removed the kinder one to replace it with this colder one about, well, we screwed up because we accidentally told everybody that the shepherds who were in charge at that church/school in Thiensville, that they're not to be trusted. And we got our hands slapped, so now we gotta make this post that says, well, we gotta tell you to go and go back to the hands of your local congregation and the people who probably covered up these things. And that, to me, that just tells me everything about the denomination. They don't care. They never actually cared to begin with. They just want to keep you cloistered, and they want to keep you dependent on the WELS community around you so that you never question, you never understand just how awful things are and how awful sins that someone committed and how awful it is that people are covering up these sins. And just to keep you a member, just to keep you paying offerings and supporting their schools and their churches. And they just want to keep this continuing. And that is ridiculous and stupid. And one final thing to note here. They removed the link from the earlier, I know the earlier post was completely removed, but they removed the post. They removed the link in the post here. Sorry, my screen completely glitched on me. When they removed the post, the initial post that was made, there was a link to a news article about the situation in Thiensville, which I am completely behind in the matter of transparency. What they did here is they did not link to any news article regarding the situation in Thiensville. Instead, they link for the Freedom for Captives website. again, it's bland enough and it's distracting enough from what's actually happening in Thiensville, where it's probably where it serves a couple of different things. Probably as much to draw attention away from the fact that what's happening in Thiensville is awful and horrific and that people were ignoring it, that were in leadership there, but also to hope probably cause people to say, oh, well, that would never happen at my church, or what do you mean that would happen? Like, I can't believe that that would happen. As well as just removing, probably also to potentially remove any media attention that may come across them and maybe scouring their page, like I've been doing. But again, this is not in the matter of transparency. And I know that this isn't the official Facebook page of the WELS, but the official Facebook page of the WELS does not discuss anything about this current travesty. And the fact that WELS Discussions did as the unofficial Facebook page, only to then remove it and then replace it with this quaint, not going to address anything in specificity post, just makes it even more ridiculous. Having come from that world and having once defended that mindset, I can understand why they don't want to be specific. Because they think that they're, by being more specific and by not telling people to go back to their local congregation, they're causing more damage to Christ. But Christ was the same person who said that if you hurt a child, you deserve to have a millstone tied around your neck. And Christ was also very much 100% for transparency. And that transparency should never come at the cost of potential victims. Because the more that we understand about abuse and the more that we understand about victims and victimizing behavior and how it gets enabled and excused and silenced and dismissed, that needs to be incorporated. There is no excuse to not do this, considering we have so much more research available to us on topics like this. And the WELS is very much okay with silencing and dismissing people who bring it up and burying it. Even now, with another teacher being arrested and facing charges. I don't know what to tell you except to say, please don't join the WELS. If you have your kids in a WELS school, please encourage them to come to you regarding anything uncomfortable that they're dealing with. Again, don't ask specific questions to make them think that you're trying to fish for specific information, just because that could possibly taint the information that they're giving you. But please be willing to listen and believe these kids in WELS schools, because this situation is not going to get any better. Thank you for watching/listening, and I will see you in the next video. Alright, on an end note, before I completely wrap this video up, I want to take and play this one particular section for you guys.
From primary care and family medicine to advanced cancer treatments and virtual care, Froedtert and the Medical College of Wisconsin Health Network are there for you. Everyday health. Let's push ahead to keep life moving forward.
Sorry for the ad.
A former elementary teacher at a Thiensville Lutheran school is charged with having inappropriate contact with students. This is 36-year-old Daniel Rick. We don't normally show mugshots, but we are making an exception because they're...
Fast forwarding.
Daniel Rick could now face time behind bars for inappropriate conduct. by Rick. Court documents show that Child Protective Services reported the 36-year-old to the Thiensville Police Department last November for inappropriate behavior with a boy. 2 days later, he resigned from the school. Investigators uncovered that Rick would have the boy sit on his lap, touch the student's stomach, and kiss the student on the top of their head, and that he was reportedly engaging in similar conduct with other boys. One instance in his classroom last January, where he allegedly pulled a boy's pants down. Another where he kissed a student on the cheek and the student reciprocated, Rick denying that he initiated the kiss. I went to Rick's home to speak with him about the charges, but no one answered. Christ Alone shared this statement with TMJ4 that also was sent out to families, reading in part, "Student safety is a top priority, and that no additional information can be released at this time due to the charges."
Did you catch that? It was released to the news organization as well as to parents. However, my question is, and I suspect the answer is, because they didn't care enough back in November to release a statement to families. But that letter that's dated January 21st, 2025 is the only letter that they ever officially released regarding this investigation, and in the most vaguest terms possible. Just something that, if they can't brush it under the rug, just they'll minimize it and act as if it's no big deal. Anyway, that's it.